And now for the most powerful hour on radio, here is End Time Newsman, Rick Wiles.
This is True News, 1 hour of uncensored news, views, and commentary. Welcome to the program. I'm Rick Wiles. I've had an interesting day here at True News. I have two visitors here with us today. The one gentleman I asked to come into the studio with me today because our conversation was so fascinating, and I quickly realized he had a grasp of what is going on in the world. Mr. Terry Sacka is here. He's with Cornerstone Asset Metals in Wake Forest, North Carolina, and he's also the host of his own television program. Terry, welcome.
Rick, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, sir. What is the TV program?
It's The Wealth Transfer. It's actually on World Harvest Television and Family Entertainment TV, as well as Christian Television Network.
Okay. Real quickly, what is Cornerstone Asset Metals?
We're actually manufacturers of the only Judeo-Christian silver that is LBMA COMEX Good Delivery certified. We use that to put into IRAs, retirement accounts, and because we're manufacturers, we're able to have and control the actual supply itself.
All right. Well, we've had an in-depth conversation today about silver and silver coins and how we can help the True News audience solidify their financial position in this very, very turbulent time. I personally think we're going into the most turbulent time since 1929, Terry. I think we're in it right now, September. And what I'm saying, and it's just me, I'm not prophesying, I'm not, this isn't God speaking through a prophet or anything like that. It's just me, all right? I believe that there is a window that opens up September 13 and goes to October 9 or 10. It's Friday, whatever that date is. It's the Friday in October. And I believe that is this window of danger, that there is a high probability of a major market crash during that time. And I think this is going to be one of the most turbulent times since 1929. And in fact, what I'm foreseeing is that we're going to go into multiple market crashes over the next year. And we could possibly be the New York stock, the Dow Jones could be 90% down by next fall from where it was at its top in July. Again, I'm not talking about a single crash of 90%, but repetitive, successive crashes that just go down, down, down until next fall we're at 90% below where we were at in July. That's a stunning prediction, but I think that's how dangerous this time is right now.
Well, the data actually supports what you're saying. On the Wealth Transfer Program, we're involved in global economics, so we show a lot of charts and data, and we've been doing this for some 2 years, 3 years now, showing the patterns of the Eastern rise in the Silk Road trade route, and now what I call the Nukro trilateral of Iran and Russia and China that are directly going after the petrodollar. These signs, not just from the East, but our own Western economic data that we've been showing for the last couple of years, point to a reckoning day. The problem we have, Rick, America seems to have a real big dose of normalcy bias. Normalcy bias being that intelligent people are in denial. They haven't seen it, they haven't been part of it, and they don't think it's coming. There has been tremendous information and indication that what you're speaking of is definitely in front of us. But yet we're in denial. You spoke earlier of the plague. I think it's a plague of normalcy bias hitting this country. We must wake up to true news and information of what's coming. Then we can make decisions to protect our family, diversify our assets, and be properly positioned to support the ministry and the churches in what is coming.
The sin of this nation is causing a spiritual delusion to blind the eyes of the population. And if you're participating, if you're vulnerable to the sins of Babylon, that delusion is going to come on you too. Your eyes are going to be blinded. You're not going to see what's happening, and her plagues will overtake you, and you won't know what happened. Terry, you heard in the introduction this stunning story coming out of China that by October they're going to announce an oil trading platform to take on the Brent and the West Texas Intermediate. This is major. China is now lobbing a serious threat at the petrodollar.
And it wasn't initial. We are pushing buttons I don't understand, because the Russia and the China energy deal that they originally were working on for some 10 years was being done in the dollar. But then we started putting sanctions on Russia, and then they decide to come out and say, we'll do it in our own currency. Now they're coming into a cooperation, and this is in line with the AIIB, the NDB, and the Shanghai Cooperation.
Now, the AIIB, this is the Asian bank that China launched earlier this year.
It's the bank that's going to directly confront the IMF. The NDB directly confronts the World Bank. Do you see a parallel building? They're
building an alternative financial system.
Absolutely. They're building one as an empire. If you look at it, 2/3 of the world's population is now coming under this umbrella of BRICS, along with this AIIB cooperation, Shanghai cooperation. They have been going after, originally they were using the dollar as the peg, but because the sanctions coming against Russia that the West put on them, they came in to align with each other and say, we'll use our own currency. And now we're going to Iran. We're giving all this $100 billion to them. Why? I haven't a clue yet, except maybe we want to put hard currency in their hands. That is a trilateral relationship. This goes deeper. It goes into Qatar. It goes into the pipeline, the Nabucco pipeline they're trying to build. Syria is in the way.
What was John Kerry implying when he said if the Iranian nuclear deal is not approved, the petrodollar could be in danger? Nobody can figure this out.
I almost don't. It almost is the opposite of. We almost know Luciferian is the opposite of, right? It's the opposite. I think doing this dooms the petrodollar.
Well, that's the way I see it.
Rick, people don't know what the petrodollar means. They think it's oil for U.S. dollars or oil for money. The petrodollar is a relationship that the U.S. sparked with Saudi Arabia, who was controlling OPEC at the time in the 70s when we came off the gold standard. We will protect you militarily. You then demand all crude oil be bought in a U.S. dollar. This made our dollar not just currency in demand, but then our bonds became in demand. We became dominant financially. You take the petrodollar down, you take the demand for U.S. dollars out of the system. That is the crutch of a petrodollar attack.
And on top of this, our arrogance is driving all of our Middle Eastern allies into the arms of Russia and China. Saudi Arabia is fed up with us. Egypt is fed up with us. They're all looking to Russia and China.
And yet some of them are playing double agent status. Even Saudi Arabia was just here in Washington.
Well, the question is, why was the king here? The media said that the king was here basically to bow down to King Obama and say, okay, we're going to accept your Iranian deal. I'm not so sure. Maybe the king was here to say the game's over.
Well, at the same time, the kingdom's in trouble financially. They're actually issuing bonds. Their debt burden is out of control. The collapse of oil that seemed to be the attack on the American oil infrastructure now has consequences to the kingdom itself. They don't have a choice. They need American might to back them up militarily. And mind you, a major military contract was being done in this. We're giving strong military equipment and aid to Saudi Arabia. Why?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out, Terry.
It's from both sides.
They're playing both sides?
It seems like a handful of people are playing both sides. As this East and West.
They want to say who offers the best deal?
Best deal, or they're playing both sides so they can cover if one side falls, or they still have friends on the other side. Mm-hmm. But we are at an epic point in history that I see, East and West. And there's 2/3 of the world's population joining this BRICS AIIB on the East, coming after the West. And if you notice where our assets are militarily, it's to stop this Silk Road movement, this cooperation of trade, trucking, shipping. The petrodollar stands in the way only that it has a financial dominance for global trade and finance using the dollar as a peg. If we lose the dollar as a peg as a nation, we lose a standard of living like we haven't seen.
Well,
so this is very important.
Not only do we lose the standard of living, but the U.S. loses its position as the leader of the world, and this could last for a century.
It could. We definitely still have the greatest military in the world, so does that help us? But we will definitely be marginalized financially, which in essence, for myself, marginalizes we, the people, our wealth, our ability to support the church, our neighbor, our family, our future standard of living. This is where my heart comes in. Because at the end, it's about we the people, our families, our children, our future.
And this is the conversation you and I were having here for hours this morning, and that is, how do we assist the body of Christ in financing the kingdom of God worldwide through a time of great global turbulence and upheaval?
There is no doubt at this moment, if you don't have in your heart the understanding to get into silver, which is God's money in the first place, go to cash. Don't listen to a broker or a banker or an advisor. Go into cash. If anything, cash can't harm you. Then I would get into the concept and understanding of why silver as an asset is paramount for the future. As that dollar loses value, silver will increase rapidly, and you can roll those retirement accounts over into a precious metals IRA in physical silver. It's a sleeper. Everybody wants to say silver's this junk investment. That is God's, and I love it. He sent a carpenter similar to a silver. People underestimate what is getting ready to happen in that tangible asset.
Yeah, he said the gold and silver is his.
He said it's his.
He made it.
He made it.
And it belongs to him.
Belongs to him.
How the world made paper money.
Job 27, the rich will pile up silver like dust, and the end is distributed to the innocent because they left silver, which was God's, and they went into fiat paper.
Terry, I've only got about 90 seconds remaining here, and we're not going to have time to go into detail about this, but I was asking you questions today concerning True News listeners that have 401ks, retirement funds that are still in the stock market. They have very little time to get out. I mean weeks, possibly days. What is before they can figure out the best way to go, what should they do in the immediate to protect themselves?
Across the board, put their accounts to cash.
Close out in the stock market and just go to all cash.
Sit in cash. Nobody's smart enough at this moment in history to know what direction this is going.
All right, so that would protect them from any severe drops in the stock market that could be on the horizon in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Absolutely. And implosion in the bond market if that were to happen. So there's really no safe place besides cash. Silver comes in as protection and preservation, as growth of wealth if you take the cash and go into silver instead, which, by the way, remember, is our true U.S. dollar. Grains of silver, grains of gold, and Greek thayer. It always was. Constitution, Article 1, Section 8. Congress has a right to coin money. Money was grains of silver.
That's right. Yeah. It's actually in the Constitution.
That's right.
Yeah, that all debts were to be paid.
Silver.
That's right.
That's right.
I'm going to have Terry back in the future because we're working on some exciting ideas that will help you, our True News listeners and supporters, to protect your investments and your assets. And we don't have time today to go into it, but I did want to bring Terry into the program and introduce him to you. Terry Sacka's Cornerstone, and Terry, we'll be back in touch with you.
Thank you, Rick. It's a pleasure.
Okay.
You're listening to True News, the End Time Newscast. Rick will return after this announcement.
Fascinating, and I quickly realized he had a grasp of what is going on in the world. Mr. Terry Sacka is here. He's with Cornerstone Asset Metals in Wake Forest, North Carolina, and he's also the host of his own television program. Terry, welcome.
Rick, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, sir. What is the TV program?
It's the Wealth Transfer. It's actually on World Harvest Television and Family Entertainment.
And now for the most powerful hour on radio, here is End Time Newsman, Rick Wiles.
This is True News, 1 hour of uncensored news, views, and commentary. Welcome to the program. I'm Rick Wiles. I've had an interesting day here at True News. I have two visitors here with us today. The one gentleman I asked to come into the studio with me today because our conversation was so fast. Time since 1929, Terry. I think we're in it right now, September. And what I'm saying, and it's just me, I'm not prophesying, I'm not, this isn't God speaking through a prophet or anything like that. It's just me, all right? I believe that there is a window that opens up September 13 and goes to October
TV, as well as Christian Television Network.
Okay. Real quickly, what is Cornerstone Asset Metals?
We're actually manufacturers of the only Judeo-Christian silver that is LBMA COMEX Good Delivery certified. We use that to put into IRAs, retirement accounts, and because we're manufacturers, we're able to have and control the actual supply itself.
All right. Well, we've had an in-depth conversation today about silver and silver coins and how we can help the True News audience solidify their financial position in this very, very turbulent time. I personally think we're going into the most turbulent